Another thing I was going to ask you about is structures and power structures and how things are controlled, even in a smaller country. The UK, in this book, is about 1 million people strong, and it's about to split up. Parts of it have split up, and some parts have done better than other parts. I won't say too much about that side of it, but some have prospered at the expense of others, maybe, and there are distinct differences between them. And I think, Ken, that you wanted to say something about the question of national identity and who we are as individuals and who we think we are part of as a nation, or what we think we are part of a nation.
Yeah, sure. Yes, the novel's set in what was Wales and also in what was the Midlands of England. And in fact, Wales is split into two, and some would argue it already has, and always has been, the rivalry between North and South. And there is a reference to this in the novel. And there is a kind of principality in North Wales called Gwynedd, which part of the story unfolds into. But yes, basically, I'm imagining a British Isles which has split into quite small regions, and in this sort of conglomeration of regions there are city-states, and the story is based first of all in a city-state called New Warwick. So new settlements have been built by the old ones. So there's a new Warwick and a new Chester, and of course there's also a New York, but not the one across the Atlantic. And these city-states, in my mind, represented the residual clinging on of a kind of 21st century setup where you have representative democracy, you have courts, you have a certain law and order. But beyond these little oases of city-states, there are forests. The trees have taken over. And I was inspired actually by a book called The World Without Us. I'm afraid I've forgotten to bring my notes to tell you who the author is, but it's basically written by a biologist, I think, an environmentalist, who has done research on abandoned areas of the world, such as the place in Russia where they had the nuclear accident. Can you just remind Chernobyl, and other areas like border areas which have been abandoned, such as in Cyprus, between North and South Cyprus, the Greek and Turkish part. And just how quickly nature takes over in these areas that have been abandoned. So I wanted to sketch a kind of arboreal Britain where there are deep forests and it takes a long time to travel from one place to another. There are sections, for example, of the story where you follow a journey along the old M5. And I was writing about this and thinking, actually, it's not that much different now. And so, like all books which are set in the future, it's really about the present. And it's about the way in which the UK is beginning to split into different sections. And you will see how, basically, we will end up with, in this story, a civil war. So part of it is medieval, part of it is a kind of re-evocation of the 17th century, the English Civil War, and how that is or isn't going to be resolved. I won't spoil the ending, but as I say, there is a glimmer of hope there as well.
There's also a glimpse in the book, I think, anyway, of the structures that hold society together today, and that some people believe should be perpetuated, by which I mean monarchy, for example, and religion. And I'd just like you to mention a couple of things about the role of the monarchy after this event, and the specific religion that seems to have sprung up. Well, I thought that was wonderful, personally, but...
Yeah, well, we all love the Queen, really, don't we? I'm expecting you to say no, but I think respect or love of the monarchy is one of the few strands that is still basically there in the UK. And the story will basically introduce you to the idea that the original royal family that we have now has had to escape to Europe. But there is a restoration of the monarch in the story. And I wanted to bring that in because really to tap into this theme of identity and who we are. Also, if we are looking at a new Middle Ages, we're talking about the gradual revival of things that we've lost and which permeated society in the Middle Ages, such as superstition, and the rise of religion, fragmentation of religion. So I invented a religion called Dianism, which is based around the turning of Princess Diana into a deity. And wherever you go in Greater England, which is called one of these bigger regions, you see roadside shrines, little glass cases with statuettes of Our Lady Diana and offerings. And I thought, I was trying to make a serious point here though, that really to examine our current preoccupation with the monarchy, which refuses to die away. If you think about the new generation of royals that are coming up, and also about the stress upon emoting and emotion in our society. And the Diana cult rescues the reputation of Diana. I think it's fair to say now that Diana's memory has begun to fade, and I believe the garden, the shrine that's been set up to visit, to remember her, has fallen into neglect and so on. But I like the idea of a resurrection of a figure who would symbolise this rather emotional, sentimental religion, which after all will help very much to heal a society which has gone through a tremendous period of misery, death and loss. So underlying the novel there are quite strong themes of death, the pandemic, the effects of that on the fragmentation of families, people brought up in very basic orphanages, many people have grown up without parents, many people don't have many family members at all. So Diana stands for this, is a symbol of comfort, I would say, and hope. And Dianism plays also into the restoration of the monarchy. So I hope I'm not giving too much of the story away when I say that a great-great-grandson of Diana is brought across the sea as a figurehead for the new regime. And I hope that's explained enough about that.
There's just a couple of more things I wanted to ask, and then we'll open it to the floor. You've got two really strong female characters as leading figures in this book. They're both female.
Yes.
One's a journalist called Star Atkins. The other one is a judge, and a very important judge called Lara Johnson. And I wondered why you chose female heroes or heroines at the head of the story, because they're both very, very feisty, very, very combative, very competent. And I think they're two of the best characters in the book, so I just wanted you to say a bit about that.
Before I say anything about those two characters, it's just better to say, when you mentioned love stories, that I ran a final draft of the book past my wife to check the validity of the love stories, and if I don't mention that, I'll be in trouble when I get home. That's been approved of by Judy. One of the characters, as you say, is a judge in her early 30s. She's a rising star in the city-state of New Warwick. Her name is Lara Johnson, and I've only just recently realised that the hairdresser's across the road.
I don't think Lara's here, we'd have heard
by Lara Johnson. And I honestly don't remember absorbing that information before I wrote the book. The only thing I can think of is that I must have subliminally noticed. Yeah. Yeah. So Lara stands for progress, with the idea of an improvement that society will get better in the future. She stands for rationality, justice, obviously. And I also wanted to pick a character who was very strong. My mental picture of Lara is of a leonine figure, of a lioness. Very gracious and civilized, but if you get into cross her path, you know, you're in trouble. There are these green gold eyes she's got, which sort of transfix people, you know, with fear, and she's really respected in New Warwick. There's also a bit of drama there in terms of her marriage and the fact that she's searching for her missing husband, and that's the thread that draws you through the story. And across this forested landscape, will she or will she not find her husband, and what will happen in the end?